Hi, it's Judy of Divina Cucina, Dining with the Diva. My Facebook cooking class is live. Today we are going to be doing a couple of great summer stews. Both are sweet and sour, like the sweet and sour onions were the other day, which I like so much. They're really good to have on a buffet table in summer, serve room temperature. So let me just, from my cookbook, on page 173 is the Peperonata recipe, which is a Tuscan classic, Peperonata. Ciao Mirko. So let me just, I want to be able to see things closer now, so let me just get back on here on my Facebook, and then I can see things without running over there all the time. So I'm just going to wait till people get here. So hi Robin, how are you? Hi Michael. Nice to see you guys. I'm just going to wait till a few people come in. Oh hi, Mary Jane. So I see you there now too. So now I can see me. Look. So this is my little iPod thing. Hi Carol Ann. Angela, ciao. So let's see if I can see this. Yeah, we'll see. See if this works. How does it? I've never tried to watch myself. Okay. This is pretty cute, so I can share my own things. Oh, that's pretty cute. So I just shared it, so we're live, okay? So we're going to do two recipes. One, oh, I don't want to hear myself though. One is the, wait a second. One is the Tuscan, I haven't used this in ages, so I don't really know what I'm doing here. One is the Tuscan Peperonata, which is a great sweet and sour, again, bell peppers and sweet onions. And in Tuscany, we're famous for our cipolla di Certaldo, which is a sweet red onion that's really, really nice. But right now they had, at the market, they had the tropeo ones. Right now, the I'll show you. I just got some for lunch today. So right now, this is the way that I can get the Certaldo onions. Right now are just fresh, okay? So for the recipe, I mean, I could do them with this, but it would take a lot of them. I really prefer like the drier onions, so I'm going to use the red ones from Tropeo for that. Okay, so we have two things because if I want to show you what I'm doing, there's a lot of waiting time. So I'm going to use, for the Caponata, we're going to Sicily for this recipe, I decided to use this nice big round violet eggplant, okay? Usually they use the long, more narrow ones. I'm not really sure where these are coming from because eggplants are usually a little bit later in the season. So we'll see how many seeds they have. The reason a lot of people don't like eggplants is because of the seeds give a real bitterness. So let me just get ready here. Ciao. Oh, Jill, you're watching too. How fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my eggplant, lightly salt them, and then put them in a colander to drain. Now there's several different techniques you can do. You can cut them and put them in the, just salt them, or another trick I learned recently was to salt them and put them in a salted water bath. But and then you just pat them dry. This way you salt them, you rinse them, and then you pat them dry. So let's look inside. I like cutting this with a bread knife that I have out here. Okay. Ciao Nikki, hamarete. Okay, let me see so you can see that. Yeah. So let's see. Do you know that eggplants were originally called eggplants because they were white? And they looked like eggs. Oh, this is beautiful. Yeah. Look how beautiful. You see that? There's no seeds. It's just really beautiful. I may have to soon make some grilled marinated eggplant that's in my cookbook too. That's one of my favorite things too to keep in the kitchen as a pantry item kind of. It's so good. This eggplant is beautiful. It'd be nice to roast and do a little baba ganoush too. So I'm going to cut these into cubes about like this big, okay? So first I'm going to cut some nice thick slices. Okay, just like that. Like a nice big chunk of bread. And then each of these I'm going to cut across like into thirds. and then cut them into chunks. Okay? So here's my eggplants. Oh, Janet, hi, how are you? Okay, so that's easy. And then I'm going to use my my sea salt, my big sea salt. At home you could use kosher salt because that's cheaper. It does the same idea. I never buy iodized salt. I don't use that. I don't think we need it in our diets anymore, really. Most of us get iodine from a lot of places. Okay? And I leave the skin on. I don't care about peeling them. Hi, Lucy. How are you? Isn't that funny? Yeah, I've seen them in the market now. The little white eggplants look like eggs. They're about that big. They're really beautiful. And sometimes these other purple eggplants, you can see where the stem is. If you pick up the leaves, it's actually, like, see this little violet one here? They're actually white underneath. Isn't that pretty? But I bet this one would make it really beautiful, like baba ganoush, oven roast it, and just make a cream out of this one. Today I made falafel for lunch, so I'm kind of, in summer I do like my Mediterranean things. Oh yeah. Well, actually, I don't use this as a work surface. I have two marble spaces usually that I cut on. I'm doing this because it makes it a little bit higher. And the distance I have to have the camera, it's like sitting on my dish board at the other side next to the sink. So see, this is a full, like a little colander of eggplant. So with this eggplant, actually, that really, look, here's just a couple of the seeds here. It doesn't really have any seeds in it at all, really. I really wouldn't even have to salt this, so I didn't want to. Usually that bitterness is later in the season. But by salting it and bringing out the water, it'll make it also absorb less oil. So that's really kind of the trick of why I would do that. Francesco from Manila, hi. Okay, so it'll make it absorb less olive oil when we cook it. So I have my my nice little salt holder, and I'm just going to do a nice big handful of salt on here and just put it in my sink so it could just drizzle, okay? Drain right into the sink, and it's going to give off a little brown. Oh, it's really cute, you guys. Because I'm making caponata, I went back and I was checking all my recipes that I have, right? So I've been going down to Sicily to the Planeta winery from for years now, since maybe 2008 or something. And so I thought that I would check the recipe with Angelo Camila, who's the chef of the Planeta winery, and his job really is to convey to us the Planeta winery recipe. So when I first started going there, well, first there were no photos. And so this is from a later one now too. Hi Marilyn, hi Bill. That has a photo presentation of how they serve it excuse me, at the restaurant. And so I went and I cook with Angelo, and basically I'm there to help. He speaks fluent English, but I'm there to help translate and maybe explain to how we would do it in America, or help facilitate, like read the recipes in English, see if there's any mistakes, make sure everything's written down, make sure when you go home you can make the recipes as they give you. And every time, I've got maybe 10 copies of this recipe. Ciao, Angelo. Ciao. So in this recipe, so I remember how we cook it, and I learned to cook by watching, really, and I don't really use recipes or cookbooks anymore. So when I went to double check their beautiful cookbook, which I'll show you, and then I checked like 5 or 6 of the different variations, there's always a little something different, and it's not how we really make it. And Angela was telling me when they were writing the cookbook, they were fighting because, Angela, are you still here? How many sisters are there in the Planeta family? Let's see if he's there. I'll go get you the book while I'm waiting for an answer. So this is the beautiful cookbook, because that was upside down. The beautiful cookbook by of the Planeta family's recipes that was written by Elisia Menduni, who's a really good food writer living here in Italy. And so here is the picture of the Caponata, which is really lovely, okay? Which is not this picture of the Caponata. So, of course, every time you make something, things change a little bit, the presentation and stuff like that. So, before I went online, I double-checked with Angelo because, let me just read this one. In all the recipes, it says to put oil in the pan and saute the onions for the Caponata. And the thing that I really remember is that he doesn't saute in olive oil, that they're kind of onions with water. How many sisters are there, Angelo? Let's see if we can get Angelo to answer us. So how many, were there 3 sisters that were trying to always argue about which recipe was the recipe to be used? So anyway, all the recipes I found printed said to saute the onions in oil. And one of the things Angelo always does is he always does them in water. So that's the secret you're going to learn today that you would never find if you just bought books or read printed recipes. 3 sisters, okay. So, so what we're going to do is we've got the eggplant salting there now. And the other thing that the Planeta family does is that the simple recipes are celery, onions. I could only get a golden onion, not the white onion. Usually they're just the white onions. And then we have, in Sicily, the Val di Bellucci, they have green olives. So I've pitted the green olives. And we have capers. So it's a very simple recipe. The other thing, Angelo, since you're here and I could talk to you, is sometimes you put fresh tomatoes in the Caponata. And do you sometimes put tomato paste? Because when we cook with Angelo too, he teaches us the difference in the recipes from the East Coast and the West Coast. So, for one, like the word arancina or arancina is totally different. You know how they call it if it's a fruit or a tree or whatever. They, tomato paste or fresh tomatoes or tomato sauce. So it can be more of a red tomato kind of stew. I actually like the tomato paste because I think it gives it a beautiful glaze. No fresh tomatoes or no tomato paste, Angelo? Can you guys see Angelo writing to me? Okay, so while the eggplant is getting ready, we're going to start and do the Tuscan Peperonata, which is really, really a great recipe. Ciao, Philippe. I was at Dario's again yesterday. So this is very simple. I like it just with red peppers and the red onions, okay? So each region also seems to have their own special onion they like to use when they're cooking. When you cut a bell pepper, this is kind of a fun trick. You know there's the big white seeds on the inside, mostly attached to here. So if you just cut straight down the side, okay, and get to the bottom there, okay, like that. So the object of the game here is you can actually cut down here and just leave all these seeds attached to the center core, okay? So what we want is just the red bell peppers with no seeds. Okay, so we'll do that. Just kind of some little tricks to help you make less of a mess in life, okay? So see, now I can just take that and put that in my vegetable garbage. And I like to cut them in half this way and then in small strips. I suppose you could also, a lot of people too like to remove this white membrane inside there. They say sometimes that's the part that's hard to digest of the bell pepper. So most people would like to, if you like your guests, you take that out, okay? And chili peppers too, you usually do that. No seeds and no white membrane. The seeds are the heat, so you can control then how much heat. So I'm going to basically kind of use like the little quarter size pieces like that. And I don't like huge things, so I'm just going to cut like finger-sized strips. And I'm just going to throw them in the pan. So we're going to do the bell peppers and onions. If you were making fajitas, you would just cook them together like that and they would steam for the fajitas. But instead for this recipe, we first let them cook just with the olive oil and a pinch of salt, which is going to bring the water out of the bell peppers and the onions and help them kind of steam in their own juices, so they're not going to lose any of their flavors or have it get diluted. Make that white part out here. Okay. And then, so peppers, onions, and olive oil and salt. And then I'm going to cover it, let them steam until they're nicely wilted and tender. And then we're going to add sugar and vinegar and let them kind of caramelize a little bit like we did with the onions the other day, the sweet and sour cipollini. And thank you, Angela, for showing your picture that you made them. That was really fun. I think it's nice when we can share the photos. Plus, if you have any problems, you can always ask me on our Dining with the Diva page, okay? That's what that's for, is kind of to deal with any problems or sharing like where you can get ingredients, okay? So I've got a nice big, oops, there goes one. The pan is kind of full of the bell peppers. There's just two of us, so I don't really need to go crazy about this. And basically use even amounts of the bell peppers and the onions. And one of my tricks for onions is I cut them through the root end, okay, to get a flat side down. And then I cut off the top part and leave the root end attached. And that's supposed to make you not cry as much. The other thing is if you breathe through your mouth and not through your nose, that's supposed to help. So see? And then I pull back off the paper, the little outside skin, and maybe some of that first layer. And I leave myself a little handle here, okay? And for this, I just like them in nice slices like that, and then they'll break apart as they cook, okay? And these peperonata, I just love to eat as they are, but it'd be nice even served on bread as a little appetizer. I usually serve them like with grilled foods like a chicken breast or pork that's been grilled. Always great on a buffet table. I like to have as many vegetables as possible in the summer. Fruits and vegetables more than meat. So I'd like to have a lot of these things. And Angela was telling me too that, we only really cook these sort of recipes when they're in season. And he was saying like at the drop of a hat, family shows up for a party, you could have like 35 people for a party at your house. So if you can, when the eggplants are beautiful and they're cheap, also when they first come in season, they're expensive. So as soon as you get to the end of the season and they get really cheap, you start making tons of stuff. And then you would jar it. And then when somebody comes, you've got it ready to serve. You just crack open the jar. Remember the same thing when I went to visit my girlfriend Kate in Gascony. And we showed up at a friend of hers' house was looking for a lemon because her tree had broken. We ended up getting invited for lunch. We taught them how to make limoncello, gave them a little limoncello lesson. And then, they went into their pantry, and because they're a farm, they of course have everything. But especially because the husband was a butcher. Oh my God, we had, all the duck parts, duck breasts, duck thighs, duck gizzards, marinated. They have everything prepared. Little pork things, salamis, prosciuttos. So when somebody comes over, you never really have to cook. You just have to go empty the pantry. So whereas in America, you might have everything, pre-cooked and in the freezer. Most Europeans don't have huge kitchens, big refrigerators, no ice machines, no Ziploc bags, no Tupperware. They jar things, they can things, and preserve and put things up like we used to do in America. So, and where a lot of people are still doing it, jams, jellies, tomato sauces. When I go to my Wednesday market, which was today, from my vegetable lady, when she has all the extra vegetables, she'll just whip them up into sauces. Instead of throwing them away, she'll convert them into a sauce. And you can just go there and buy sauces from her already made, which is really great. Okay. So now, this would be pretty. I don't really like green bell peppers, but I like these. Okay. So see, we've got the beautiful peppers and then the purple onions, which is so nice. Yellow would be nice in here too, though. All the bell peppers. And then I'm going to lightly salt it. Italian lightly, so that's a couple nice big pinches of salt. Again, that's to draw the water out. And then I'll put a little olive oil. Cover the bottom of the pan is my basic rule. You wouldn't just do like 2 tablespoons in there. Okay. Turn this on. Okay. And I'm going to cover it so that any steam and the flavor stays back in that pot there, okay? Good. Now the next thing is in doing Angelo's, the Planeta family's Caponata. The old recipes used to be, and even on my website, because that's how I learned it, everything was like fried, okay? And that was kind of heavy and greasy. So what I really love about the Planeta winery is that everything's been kind of like lightened up. Okay, I'm just going to check my eggplant here for a second and just give it a light toss. Make sure the salt's touching everything. Okay, they're already draining. That's good. You can also do it just like sitting on a plate right in front of you, which should be okay. So that's going. And the other thing I have now ready here to make things lighter is you have a pot of boiling water. Okay? You don't need to have this salted. It just needs to be boiling. Okay? So what we're going to do, oops, don't want to turn the flame on under my cutting board. We're talking about how accidents that happen when you're doing my Facebook Live. Okay? So I have two nice little celery stalks from the whole celery. I took like the center pieces that are the most tender. And then what I want to do is take away the strings. And so when I was a kid, we would do this. We would break them in half and just pull and then get the strings coming off like that. But I found if you want to make them really nice, take your potato peeler, okay? And just do the potato peeling and take that first tougher layer off, and that's going to remove your strings. Okay? That's kind of easy. Do you know, one of the things that I do miss, or did miss when I moved here, was American peanut butter, because I love peanut butter, and celery is just such a good, protein snack food. When I first moved here, too, I was vegetarian, so it was a really good trick to eating peanut butter right. And peanut butter was $9 a jar. Isn't that crazy? And now that we've got so many immigrants here, they're bringing in peanut butter. The prices have dropped, so I don't need people to bring me peanut butter anymore. But you have to be careful, because besides American peanut butter, there's also like an Indonesian peanut butter, which is more for cooking with and doing dipping sauces. And it's a little more runnier, a little more oily. If you're in Florence this week, we just did a market tour the other day, and then we drove back from Siena yesterday into Florence. There's PT Uomo, so if you ever come in June, it's the men's fashion show. I should have been taking pictures. You just spend the day down there taking pictures. So if you want to be hip this year for guys, skinny pants, just above your ankle or rolled up, no socks, and suede slip-on shoes, okay? Just giving you tips. All white is good, and the bright colors. So we're just going to cut these into slices, simple slices, and I'm going to parboil them just like 2 minutes. So instead of frying them, this is going to give you a nice, beautiful, crispy but cooked little piece of celery. So I'm going to fry these and drain these, and then to the olives. You know how strong olives can be sometimes? Well, the trick is also to drop those in boiling water and your capers into boiling water. Now, I have capers packed in vinegar, which really don't need that. But if you have the salt-packed capers, which is what I usually use, I would have dropped those into to take the salt out a little bit. Okay, so almost ready. So we get all this other stuff ready first. So a little mark on it. And then we're going to cook this, I call it a condiment, what's going to dress the caponata, okay? So I'm going to drop these in. This was already boiling, so I just turning it back on now. Drop these in the boiling water and let them go for just like 2 minutes. And on the side here, I have some cold water. You could also put ice in it, and that's to like shock it and stop it from overcooking. So just really a couple minutes there. Have you guys ever been to Sicily? I adore Sicily. Hi Courtney, how are you? I love seeing all your artwork. It's really fun. So we're really not trying to cook this, it's just like blanching it, okay? Oh, I can smell this, the beautiful peppers and onions are already cooking. And so as I'm stirring too, these onion pieces are just going to start falling apart into little strips, which is so beautiful. This is just a beautiful, beautiful dish for your table too. I think it's good with anything. Okay, let that go. Just gonna waiting for this to really come to a boil. It's hot, but it's not really boiling. So we're going to have the condiment part that we're going to do here is I'm going to slice the onions. And remember I said I only have red, I have, for them I have these. These are kind of golden, a light golden onion. Whereas traditionally they would have been using the white onion in Sicily. Well, outside of Palermo anyway, okay? So I'm going to, instead of saute these, and I'll write the recipe down and put it on the YouTube link, okay? These are going to be done in water, like braised in water. And once the water cooks down, the onions are tender, but they're not sauteed. Because usually the problem is if you put them in oil and they start to cook them, they're still really, really strong. So this is also, again, kind of like this, going to leach out the roughness of the onions. And then we're going to have, with the onions, then we add the celery and the capers, the olives, and we do the sweet and sour sauce with sugar and vinegar. And I'm going to add tomato paste because I like it as a little glaze. And once we've got that condiment done, then that gets put on top of the fried eggplant. So most recipes have you add the fried eggplant to the dish and stir it. But instead, by putting the eggplant down after it's fried and letting the condiment sit on top, it's going to leach into the eggplant. And it's just better. Everything they do at Planeta is just a step above, more delicate. The Planeta family was a noble family that came from Spain and became land barons in Sicily and grew fruit and vegetables. And then the kids said, what about, tomatoes go bad, right? What about if we put in some vineyards? So the family, which was a huge family, I think the original family was 7 brothers and sisters. The first one is a baron, and then the firstborn gets the title, nobody else does. And they said, okay, try. So Alessio was one of the cousins, and another sister, and I think there's 3 of them involved in the wine business. So one does marketing, one's actually a winemaker. I forget right now, it's so hot. I'm just dying in here. So the cousins got together and started the winery business. Now, most of their lands have been converted to wineries. So you can actually tour almost all of Sicily visiting the Planeta wineries. They have a really beautiful little book with a map of the wineries. And they just opened one on Mount Etna. And I love the white wines from Etna. So if you ever get a chance to try those are really, really good. Okay, so we just need 2 or 3 minutes. And you'll see what a great color these have now. Can you see they're kind of psychedelic? See, it's green. Let me see if I can show you that. It's pat your head and rub your stomach when you're looking at this. This has to come up higher here, and then more this way, okay? And then you have to be able to focus on it. So, I see, but anyway, it's a really great green, okay? That's going to go in the cold water and stop it from cooking. Okay? So this also, when you're eating the caponata, instead of everything being mushy, you're going to have these great little crunchy bits too. The only thing I forgot to get when I was shopping was almonds. So usually I was always doing a raisin and pine nut version of it, which was the old kind of more sweet and sour that was used often in the cooking. And I think the thing that they do that's really nice is that they did they do toasted almonds, which are really traditional from Sicily too. And so today I have the pine nuts, so we'll do the pine nuts. But the toasted almonds on top is really nice. And then this is going to be garnished with mint, which to me is the surprise flavor in Sicily. Okay, so I need a couple of tablespoons of capers. We'll just get them in here to be the same way as the celery is. And these really just need a minute. If they were the salted ones, they need a little bit longer. But these are just, these have been pickled. I'm going to be adding vinegar back to them anyway. But this is what you would do if you had the salted capers. Is to just drop them in a minute to take some of the salt off. personally, I love the salt on the capers. It's Sicilian sea salt, and I'm making my own capers right now. So I've got these capers. Let me just break them up with my fingers here now. These are ready to take out, to changing the salt and everything. These are my capers packed in salt. Okay, so now these are dry, and I can just put these in a jar and save them. But the salt smells like capers. It's really, really great. The flavor of capers growing on the branches is really beautiful. And they do, in Greece, they also pickle the leaves. Okay, so just a couple more here. They're kind of hard to get up. So, capers, celery. Then we're going to do the green olives. So just down the street, down the road from Planeta, we're in the Val di Bellici, where they had that huge earthquake in 1966. But that's also where, I don't know if you guys have heard of Castelvetrano. The Castelvetrano olives are those big, giant, beautiful olives that are so buttery that usually you see in the olive bars, the salad bars in America, at the grocery stores. There's a beautiful big green one from Puglia, and there's a beautiful green one from Sicily called Castelvetrano. The other thing Castelvetrano is famous for are is the bread, the wheat that they grow. And our good friend Filippo Di Drago has an ancient family flour mill and a bakery where they bake bread. And the bread, oh, it's incredible. It's one of my favorites, and they bake it with sesame seeds on top of it. So you see all these kind of reminiscent things of like Arab cuisine. So sesame seeds, using sugar and vinegar, using raisin and pine nuts, the Spanish Moorish things. I mean, the Crusades are going on. People are driving back and forth, across country and, taking over countries and bringing their recipes with them. And that's what I think is so great. It's all the influence of the recipes. Okay. And now I'm going to do a couple of tablespoons of these pitted green Castelvetrano olives. So that'll make it, for people that really don't like olives, that'll even make it a little more, let's say, tender, okay? And again, just like a minute or so, it doesn't need a lot of time. And then we'll start our onions, and then this will all go back into the pan we're doing the onions with. I can tell, too, that my Peperonata now is ready to be done with the sugar and vinegar. I don't listen to music and I don't drink when I'm cooking, because I think you have to have all your senses going. So I can smell this, but I can also hear how it's sizzling. And the sounds change as it cooks. So it's given off some of the liquid and blended with the olive oil, but it's not watery. Now, I don't know if American ingredients are more watery. I would assume they would be. Here, they're just beautiful. But all my onions are wilting now and getting soft. They're not that crazy purple anymore. They've gotten more to a pink. Okay, so my olives now are ready. So when you're making this, I'm just making kind of a small batch. There's just the two of us. But if you're going to, you can just make tons. And like I said, put it in the jars and seal them. But in America, you can also just put them in Ziploc bags and freeze it. You can bring it up to room temperature. This is also is good served warm. I had it served warm once with a bittersweet chocolate sauce. Think mole. It was really interesting as a side dish. Okay, so that's done. Now I can stop boiling water. It's so hot there. Let me get that out of the way. Okay. Okay, let's look at this. Let me show it to you. Okay, can you see how nice this is? See how soft the onions are? Okay, we still need to let it cook a little bit, but now we're going to do like we did with those the small cipollini and do the sweet and sour. Okay, Now you could also use a red wine vinegar if you like. I don't have one. I just have my white one that I love so much. So I'm going to do, let's say, a 1/4 cup white wine vinegar, and then a couple of tablespoons of sugar. And then we'll let this cook for a couple minutes, and then we'll taste to balance. So remember, it already has the salt in there. Now I'm balancing the sugar and vinegar. And again, your vinegar may be more or less sharp. Hi, Lynn. How are you? And Dab, hi. I love sweet and sour so much. Okay. Let me just taste now. Still needs to like soften a little bit. So the other day the difference was our sweet and sour onions, those little cipollini, also had chili pepper in there. This has no chili pepper, but it has those peppers, bell peppers, which have a beautiful flavor. Okay, so this is going to just finish cooking. And then once it's cooked, I'll add the capers. The capers don't need to be cooked for that, okay? So now I can move on and start the onions for our base. I'm going to do 2 big onions. Actually, they may not be big for America. Hold on here. And same thing. I just cut and take that first layer off, usually. Take off both ends now. Recycle, recycle, recycle. Vegetable bin. Okay, almost there. Did anybody else make the sweet and sour onions, or have you done any of the other recipes that I showed you? I know I see Francesca all the time does my stuff and she shows me. Anybody else been cooking? Let me get a pan for this now. I just need like a little saucepan. And for the onions, remember, no oil. So this is the big secret here. I'm going to cut them. I cut them lengthwise, and then I'll cut them widthwise. I don't need them to be too big. I want them to be able to fit on a fork. Okay? It's going to go in the pan, and just with a little water. Okay, picking them up with the blade of my knife, using that as a little taxi to get them over there. Okay. So I'll cut widthwise, lengthwise, and then widthwise. Then we'll add the water. There we go. So when you start doing really huge recipes, it's kind of nice to have somebody help you. And I would do big batches and then let them take some of them home. Okay? So, a pan full of onions now. We're going to have water. And put these on to cook. So it's kind of, the onion part is kind of like the idea of those sweet and sour onions that I did the other day, right? They were done in water and they weren't fried first either. So you find a lot of these recipes have similar things in common. Okay, this should be done now. Let's see. Oh, it's got a great juice going there. Like on the sweet and sour onions too, the cipollini, I love having the sauce on this. So I often serve this with like a barbecue chicken breast. Kind of has like, ends up having like a Chinese flavor to me of the sweet and sour onions served with the chicken. It's really a great dinner party gift dish. Yeah, so I can see the onions now are kind of turning translucent. That's beautiful. So now I'm just going to add capers and turn off the heat, and this is done. Let me plate it up for you. And like I said too, to me all these things are better the next day. They're really, really good the next day. The flavors kind of relax and blend. So they're perfect for parties. And you don't have to stress the same day of getting everything ready at the same time. Your food will actually be better, which I find often leftovers are better than the regular food anyway, right? Okay, so I turn that off. And get a serving dish. Oh, this is a little dish I got in Puglia with the roosters, but this is like a traditional decoration in Puglia. It's that little blue and white flower, okay? Just so you kind of recognize ceramics from the different regions. It's so much fun to pick up ceramics as you're traveling through Italy. We do have mailbox, etc. now, so you can ship things home without any problems. I still have problems shipping things from Sicily, though. They haven't really gotten that together yet. Okay, so that's ready. It smells so good. Then I'll tell you Angelo's secret, what he does with his recipes. Okay, I'm going to show you. See how, oh, I can't, it's going to slide out. So this is the, here, the Peperonata. See what great colors it's got, right? I'll take a picture later and put that on. This also reminds me, in Venice, and in Sicily they do a fish too. They do fried fish covered in pickled onions. So I've learned a swordfish meatball, which has this sweet and sour, just sweet and sour onions. So you do it with sliced onions, and you boil them in the water, and once the onions are cooked, you add your vinegar and sugar. And then you pour those on top of the fish meatballs, let them come to room temperature, and then you can serve them. And I've had a sardine one that's done in a sweet and sour tomato sauce. So it's almost like making ketchup, right? Tomato sauce with sugar in it. But it's really, really good. The sardine meatballs are a little stronger for fish flavor, but they're really, really good. I prefer to do the swordfish ones. And in Venice, they do the sarde in sauro, which is fried sardines. They take the heads off, fry them and flour them, lay them down, and then top them too with the onions. And the onions there, they're usually done with a little bit of olive oil first, and then the water, and then sugar and vinegar and pine nuts and raisins, and that's put on top of the fish and marinating, and that kept things from going bad because you're basically pickling them. Okay. Someone was just showing on YouTube the other day the pickled avocados, where you put the hot vinegar with all the spices, chili and mustard seeds and stuff like that. So vinegar preserves things, okay? So this is coming to a boil now. And we'll let these onions, I'm going to break them up a little bit here. And let those cook. In the meantime, while those are doing that, that's why I always like to have two things going. I'm going to drain my eggplant. Okay. I don't want to make a mess here, but so here you can see the eggplant's gotten like half the size now. It's gotten really smaller. It's dripping this brown liquid. Can you see that? This brown liquid's coming off of it. I'm just going to squeeze the eggplant now. First I'm going to rinse it off, and then squeeze them to get that salt out from the liquid. And then we're going to put them in a clean dish towel and pat them dry before we fry them, okay? So now we're going to drain these. And we get the dish towel. Okay. Don't want to catch on fire, that would be embarrassing. Okay, so I'm going to put my eggplant on the clean dish towel and let that absorb the water, and then they'll be ready to fry. I'm just going to fry in a nice light seed oil. I'm not going to waste my olive oil to deep fry these. But what I find is addicting is once they're fried, I just want to eat them all by themselves. They're so incredibly good. Little fried cubes. Also, if you're going to do like the pasta alla norma, you fry eggplants too. And then it's a tomato sauce. And then it's finished off with a pecorino, a salted pecorino romano, like cheese on top. It's really, really good. Okay, so let's wrap these up. Okay, and kind of press to help dry them. Okay, I'm going to go one side up, one side down. Let gravity kind of pull the water out of them, but patting them dry. Okay, and then we've got our onions. They're boiling away here now. So anyway, I'll tell you Angelo's secret. Angelo, when his mother loves him, will make beautiful little fried, I think they're pork meatballs with fennel seeds in them. They're really, really good. We've made those before. And then she lays that out on a big tray, and then she pours on top of it the caponata, and the caponata soaks down into the meatballs. And he says he just takes the tray of them and just eats the meatballs like while he's watching the soccer games. That sounds fabulous to me. It'd be a great picnic item. Okay, so now that the onions are cooking, we're going to do the same thing. Sugar and vinegar. Okay. And make our base of sweet and sour. Let that melt. And then I'm going to get my triple concentrate tomato paste. So in Sicily, they make a really, really dense tomato paste just by crushing the tomatoes, mixing them with salt, and spreading them on wood boards and letting them drain every summer. They said it looks like the streets are bleeding because of the color of the tomato water coming off. And then they make this big thick paste, and they keep that, and that's their tomato paste. So the best I can do is, I think I've showed you before, the Muti does a triple concentrate tomato paste. If you do come to Sicily, though, they sell the strato on the streets. Okay, so I'm going to add the tomato paste there. It dissolves best in hot water, so that's perfect for this now. And make my sweet and sour base. Okay. Let those cook down a little more. We want them to be cooked. We don't want them to be raw and crunchy, okay? And then we'll fry our eggplant. And then assemble the ingredients together. So once the eggplant is fried, I'm going to use my brown paper bags, my Italian paper towel. Fry the eggplants, put them on the paper towel, lightly salt them. That also draws out any extra liquid from the eggplant. And then we'll put that in a serving tray. And then the caponata mixture gets put on top and should sit like at least for an hour or so, okay? And then you mix it up before you serve it, and then you would put mint and toasted almonds. I'm going to put pine nuts on mine because that's what I have. And I have my mint growing in the front yard here. So let this go a little bit more. So I'll move this over to this other burner now. And then we'll start frying our eggplant. Okay. Turn that off. This here. This is a big, beautiful pan from handmade, like old copper pan from Naples that I got that I really like to use for frying because it gets hot really fast. Copper works really well. So I'm going to turn that on. I have sunflower seed oil. We have a lot of sunflowers here in Tuscany, which you see all the time if you're coming like to San Gimignano. In summer, it'll be covered with sunflowers. So now we'll let that get hot, and I'll finish squeezing out. Make sure these are dry. Any questions so far, you guys? We're done with our sugar. Let me get my books out of here. I'll have my eggplant right there. So the other day somebody was saying that I should make I have a dish that I make in my cooking classes from the Central Market, from one of the butchers, Massimo Manetti, and he does this beautiful dish. And what it is, remember beef Wellington? the puff pastry and the marshmallows and the steak, the filet in the middle. He does a pork tenderloin cooked in a baguette with Tuscan herbs. That is one of the best things in the world. So maybe I'll show you guys that next, okay? Okay, the eggplant's feeling kind of nice and dry, but we want to be sure the oil is nice and hot too before we put them in. Okay. It's going to be another minute or so. Yeah, it's hot when it sits at the bottom, but it's not quite hot enough yet. Let me get my paper ready for when they come out. Okay, so here's my Italian paper towel. Just going to put that on a serving dish. Get that all set up, a little mise en place. So what I usually do is then we recycle all our bags and keep them. So usually the brown paper bags, we still got our bread in them, so that's nice. It's hard to get any paper anymore, everything's plastic. But even in Italy now, you have to pay for your plastic bags when you go grocery shopping. And then what we do is we bring our cloth, we have cloth bags, we bring them in to our grocery shopping and then put them in our own cloth bags. And when you go to buy your vegetables, here's a couple little tips if you're coming and staying in Tuscany. When you go to the grocery store, you take your own vegetables, there's plastic bags, you put them in there and you take them to a scale that has like a little map on the top. And like fruits and vegetables, fruits are one series of numbers, vegetables are another, then there's exotic fruits. So you push on the first series if it's like fruit or salad or something like that. They come up and then there's individual numbers and you look for like your yellow onions. You push the button, the tag comes out on the bottom and it's printed with the price and you slap that on your bag. And then when you go to the cashier, she just runs it through the scanner. Okay, so you have to do that. But if you're in the central market, don't touch fruit or vegetables. You have to ask for things or you get yelled at or your hand slapped. So just avoid trouble, okay? Let's see how this is sounding hot. Almost. It's making noise. Okay, onions are almost ready now. What I'm looking for is that they get kind of like translucent. And through osmosis, the sauce is getting to the inside, okay? Okay, now the eggplants are frying. You can add, and you know, as I add them, they're going to drop the temperature, so I'm going to keep these on high. Don't ever drop into hot oil from up here, okay? Just slowly. Have your hand like kind of close down, or use a spatula or something to drop them in. So you're not going to have the oil come back up onto you. Okay, so tumble these in. And then we're going to let them get nice and brown. I want them to be nice and brown. Not, burnt, but kind of a nice golden on all the edges. These purple eggplants tend to be a little softer than the long, narrow black ones. And Angela was saying that these violet eggplants tend to be used more on the Catania side, and that the Palermo side uses the long, skinny eggplants. But I also find that every 15 miles, everybody's mother makes something a little bit different. So you do have a little freedom in just playing with your food there, okay? I'm just going to leave these. I don't like to touch them too much while they're frying. That's done. Oh my God, okay. Mostly I don't cook it all in the summer. We've been having prosciutto and melon, mozzarella, and tomatoes, just tomatoes, nice big salads. We're lucky we get market days. I can actually go to 3 different market days within like 15 minutes of my house. I can go to one on Wednesday in my village, Saturday in my village, and Thursday in another village, Tuesday a little bit farther away. So we don't tend to fill our refrigerator with food. We just buy little things. And now we have 2 cheesemakers that if you miss them, I've got their phone number. So you can go and they sell directly from the house. Sometimes you go pick up This one actually has all his own animals. He has pigs and cows and sheep, and goats. So he makes goat cheese, cow's milk, sheep's milk. He makes sausages. You can buy pork chops. Okay. So we're going to sit here and let that happen. Trying to see if, oh, here it is, my Chinese. I have my Chinese fry thing. This is good for picking things up out of oil, okay? So we'll just kind of give that a little touch now to help them cook on both sides. Have you guys made caponata before? I kind of used to make it like ratatouille almost. Just cooking everything all together and then add sweet and sour. I think I used to add canned tomatoes, and I have a recipe also where there's bell peppers. So I think maybe on one side of Sicily they also add the bell peppers, but then you also have to remember that the French were also in Sicily. So there is a lot of that influence of different countries and the different recipes showing up, which I always find fascinating. You get couscous and trapani, but only fish couscous, nothing else, because I think it was the Tunisian fishermen came to Sicily to work. And so, ooh, the lavender is really getting electric right now. That's really pretty. Okay. This is where you kind of need to have an outdoor kitchen. A lot of the Italian ladies I know put a second stove outside on their terrace and their apartment patios. And in the summer they cook out there so they don't make their houses hot. It's really cute. And one lady, she invited us over once. She only does pizza in the summer, and she only does it out on her patio. It was really good. She was from Naples, so she had really good pizza dough. She knew how to make it even at home. Okay, fry, 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 fry. They'll shrink up a little bit too when it's doing that. Okay, so my onions now are pretty sweet and sour. And again, instead of having that really, really red from using canned tomatoes, the tomato paste is giving me kind of a glaze color, like the sweet and sour onions, which I really like. So now here I'm going to add all my other ingredients to that. The drained capers and celery and the green olives, okay? Look how pretty that is. I'll show you in a minute. So you'll see how this the celery stayed such a pretty color. I'm fishing right here. Okay. Let me show you. Here, let's get the. There. Can you see that? How pretty it is? Okay, now I'm going to stir that all in. Oops. Still on the heat here. Normally I'd be on my bigger burner, but I'm kind of taking up space here. I see a little thread from my celery. Get that out. So this beautiful sweet and sour glaze then is going to soak into the fried eggplant, which will be under it. Okay, so let this all cook together. Not getting gold yet, but we're shrinking up a little bit. These kind of remind me now of like porcini mushrooms. This eggplant gets really soft and tender like the big porcini mushrooms do. And to me, if I close my eyes, it even smells like it. Which is why I think it's also nice that the Sicilians use mint in their cooking. Because when we do the porcini mushrooms, we put a wild mint called nepitella. And it's somewhere tastes to me like between mint and oregano. And it's already growing outside my house. I walk, from the little piazza to my house, and there's wild nepitella growing. And usually, when the nepitella is growing is when porcini mushrooms come, but we haven't had any rain yet. One of the reasons porcini mushrooms are so expensive is that they only grow on a hot day after it rains under chestnut and oak trees at a certain altitude, and then they have to be picked within so many days of when they've been growing, and then they start to go bad really quickly. So it has a very short window. which is why mostly you find dried porcini mushrooms. Because if they haven't sold them, like to be, when you come to a restaurant in Tuscany, if you really want to try a fresh porcini mushroom, they're sold like steak or like fish is, and they'll bring you out a tray, and you pick like the mushroom cap or a whole mushroom that you want. And usually they'll grill the cap and they'll fry the stem. They cut the stem into cubes like this, and the cap will be stuffed with garlic slices and wild mint, and then grilled, just salt and olive oil. And it's sold by weight, like a steak, fish, and the porcini mushrooms are sold by weight. So, but right now this is just smelling just like porcini mushrooms. I wonder if I can fake somebody out. It's really, really good. Another thing I was thinking about making, if I was going to do more Sicilian things, was I was inspired by they make a red pesto in Trapani. And of course, because Sicily has so many almonds, it's an almond-based pesto. And they do a lot with almonds. You could grind them and toast them and have them instead of Parmesan cheese on pasta I've had. Chopped almonds toasted. Or in this pesto recipe, it's, and again, from Trapani, depending where you go and whose mom you're talking to, I've had them where they're really green with cherry tomato bits in it, or I've had where it's really red with a little bit of basil and pesto and kind of in the background. So what I like to make is I do a sun-dried tomato pesto. So I do sun-dried tomatoes with the basil, olive oil, and toasted almonds. And it's really good on bread, but it's also really nice on pasta or on fish. It's one of those recipes that you just like to have around. Okay, these are shrinking up and starting to get golden now. So you see when you make this why you want to make a lot of it at once. So you don't have to stand over the heat anymore. We stir this again, and then this will be ready to turn off once we've gotten all the flavors going here. The liquids are kind of thickening and absorbing into the veggies. Ah, patience, patience. Hi, Kate. How are you? Hi, Angela. Is it hot where you guys are? Oh, it's early morning probably. The temperatures here are just horrible. And you know what makes it's really hard is nobody really has air conditioning or ice cubes. So we were just talking about with my clients that were here the other day that, you know, she liked to have a nice big glass of iced tea in the afternoon, but with ice. And she had to go down to the bar down the street, and they were selling her like little Ziploc bags of ice. And she needs to buy like 4 of them a day to be able to have her iced tea. It's crazy. I mean, now things are changing. It's kind of good news, bad news. So we're getting, you know, drinks with ice, and we're getting air conditioning. And the other day on the train, I was going in the morning, it was so cold. Everyone started wrapping their necks, Italians, with, you know, the scarves so they wouldn't get sick. They're not used to changing of temperatures. It's easier almost to just suffer the heat than it is to go in and out of hot and cold temperatures. So it's funny, we were in Siena yesterday, and everyone was kind of like walking along the walls where all the shade was. Come on, fry, 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 fry. I'm also not very good. I overcrowd my pans. I don't really have a lot of patience. If you had fewer things in there, I would do it twice, but it would have gone faster. You guys know that, right? So let's see what somebody's writing. Getting little messages on my messenger coming in. Okay. Let me get a serving dish for this now, too. Be right back. So for me to marinate this, once I fried the eggplant and drained it, I'll put the eggplant all down on the bottom here, and then I'm going to cover it with the sweet and sour sauce and leave it there for about an hour or so. Okay? This is like watching paint dry, isn't it? Come on. It's really great too when we're cooking at Planeta. Of course, they've got the most beautiful professional kitchen. And built into their countertop, they have a vat of boiling water where they can boil their pastas with the baskets that come out. And on the other side, they have a vat of boiling oil for doing cannoli and eggplant and all the stuff. They do a lot of frying in Sicily, too. But it's so nice to have it just incorporated into your kitchen, instead of having to always have new toys sometimes, fry babies or whatever. I don't know how that would work for this. So I'm not seeing any gold color really. A couple of them are, but just have to have patience. Stir this some more. Almost ready. Trying to think other things that this sweet and sour would be nice on. It does start to remind me of the Chinese food. You know, if I'm craving Chinese, often I'll make something Italian, but then, you know, throw some ginger into it. Yesterday I went out and I got falafel mix, and I got tahini, and I got, what did I get? Sesame oil. So now in summer I can just think about some quick stir fry. Today we made falafel. I just bought, they actually sell pane arabo. I found like the last 2 pita breads in my grocery store. So I bought those, warmed them up while I was, I bought a falafel kit, just the flour, so I you know, add water and wait. So I grilled that, and while I was soaking the falafel mix, I made a like Israeli breakfast salad, the red onions, cucumbers, and chopped tomatoes with a little bit of salt. I made my tahini with the paste. You add equal amounts of water, lemon juice. I didn't add any garlic. And then I had the shaved cabbage for like a little salad. Warmed the pita breads, and then all my condiments were ready, and I fried up the patties, and we had a kind of instant lunch with not too much work. This is taking much longer than I thought. I'm wondering if it's the, because it's this violet eggplant is also kind of a softer eggplant. Patience, patience, patience. It's so hot, you guys. Yesterday I came home and I just melted. We were gone for like 12 hours. I live about an hour outside of Florence, so my driver came and picked me up at 8 o'clock, and we got down to Florence around 9 o'clock. Little traffic jam because the fashion shows are starting. Picked up the clients and then drove another hour back out to Siena, and we visited Siena, and then we visited the Duomo, the cathedral there, which is, to me, if you look at my Instagram or Facebook accounts, you'll see the photographs. It's one of the most beautiful churches in Italy. It's really, really incredibly fabulous. And then we saw, we went over to San Gimignano and had ice cream at Sergio Dondoli's. He's like, he used to train the Olympic pastry team in ice cream making, and he's just opened up an ice cream school in San Gimignano. So if you have a small group of people, you can come and learn about the history of ice cream and what's the difference. I'm sorry, gelato. He'll kill me. You can learn how to make gelato. And he explains the difference between ice cream and gelato, and also explains the difference in like real gelato, the ones made with fresh, good ingredients, like what he makes, versus ones that are made with mixes or chemicals or something like that. Like, I think all ice cream is good. I love American ice cream. I like that it's chewy and it has a bite. Really fresh gelato sometimes to me is too soft, and especially in the summer when it's hot, it melts. So one of my rules of thumb when you travel is only get the €2.50 size of gelato, because that's what you can eat before it melts. You want to go get these big, beautiful hand-rolled cones or something, but it's got like a half gallon of ice cream in it, and there's no way you can eat all that ice cream. It's just going to melt before you could eat it. Okay, these are getting much smaller now. I just really need that beautiful gold color to happen. It's funny how things shrink up when they cook. Yes, have you ever done that? We've cut something really small and then you cooked it and it was like way too small. Remember once I was trying to make a wild boar stew, and I really should have left the pieces really big, because once they cook down, they tend to shrink. And it cooked down so much, I just ended up using it as a pasta sauce, you know, mincing it up a little bit more. So in my village, I live in Certaldo, this weekend there's a medieval dinner party for like 350 people in the piazza with a theater. And then we're thinking about going to, there's a new party that started last year we went to, it's called Cachuco Pride. The advertisement is like you have little octopus mustaches. And in Livorno, they're famous for their fish stew cachuco. And it's supposed to have as many fishes as there are seas. So C-A-C-C, C-I-U-C-C-O, so about 5 fishes. And then there's a new commission that they're trying to make sure the highest quality cachuco only has Tuscan ingredients. So only Tuscan tomatoes, only Tuscan fish. So we're going to go, I think, Friday and Saturday. And in Livorno, if you've never been, it's not one of those really visited cities unless you're on a tour bus or those cruise ships that come in. There's a big port there. But they have a part of Livorno that's like Venice with canals, and you can go on a boat ride there. And then it's kind of closed off to traffic. So there's a part there where you can actually just, all the restaurants have tables out on the canal. And it's really, really nice. And it's on the sea. So you can also go to the beach. Okay, that's done. I'm going to turn that off. You can see now the colors have changed a little bit. Okay, see that? Okay. That's ready. My eggplants just aren't getting golden yet. I almost feel like I should have fried them a piece at a time. They're just starting to get golden, but they've really shrunk up a lot. Now I wonder if this one just doesn't get golden if it's a different color. Because the other one turns like, you know, French fries golden. I'm not going to take it out before it's done because that would be all soggy. I'm just going to keep hoping. Another thing I was thinking about making was like a granita. I have an ice cream machine, but you can also make it just by freezing it. Like they make a coffee granita. Have you ever had that? You freeze like espresso. Maybe I'll just put recipes up maybe. And it's served as breakfast in Sicily. You get granitas for breakfast and like a little brioche cake. And you usually would get a espresso one with whipped cream on it. And you can also get a almond milk one. And sometimes they blend that with the coffee and they'll call it a cappuccino. And usually a fruit one just to have like your fruit juice. So you get coffee, almond, fruit, these little cakes, brioche cakes, and then sometimes some cookies. Oh good, we're getting golden here now, fine. And that's really nice. But also here in Italy, they don't really have iced coffee, but what you can order is caffè shakerato. So I cheat and I get my cocktail shaker and fill it with ice, and I just put in a couple of teaspoons of like espresso powder, the instant espresso, not the one you make, put in your coffee pot, like Nescafe kind of espresso, and water, and you can add sugar, and shake, 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 until the ice cubes kind of start to melt a little bit, and you pour it off, and you end up getting this espresso with like a foam that kind of looks like a Irish coffee. And it's really, really, really refreshing. So, caffè shakerato, and then, of course, when they want to give it to me, they usually try to give it to me without the ice, and I have to tell them I want it with the ice. Con ghiaccio. G-H-I-A-C-C-O. Con ghiaccio. Okay, we're getting some gold action happening here now. But you can see how pale it is. Can you see that? How pale? It's just getting lightly gold. Okay? I'm going to start taking these ones out that are golden. That'll probably make the other ones go golden faster. So by putting on your paper towel, or if you have that kitchen paper for fried food, this will drain off that extra oil. And then we're going to put it at the bottom of the pan. And then put the dressing on top of it, and then I'll let it sit. And then at the very end is when I'll add the nuts. The pine nuts, or if you had toasted almonds, and the mint, okay? I'm glad I can use chopsticks. It makes me happy to take things out when they're ready instead of having to scoop things out that aren't ready. The smaller ones are done. Smells so good, but it's funny how it really smells like porcini mushrooms. I'm really amazed. I think I might try doing that as a pasta sauce. Just these fried eggplant. My friend Pino, who has the Cantina Siciliano in Trapani, does the bucciate with the Trapani pesto, which is that tomato pesto, and then he does it more where it's like a tomato sauce with the almonds in it, and then to garnish it, he puts in fried eggplant slices. And their pasta is called bucciate, which is kind of like peachy, that hand-rolled pasta we did, except it's done with semola flour, and it's rolled around a little stick, and so they're like a giant fusilli. So it's a curly pasta, and then it has this beautiful tomato and almond pesto. Okay, now I can just go with my scraper because they're all kind of getting golden now. So I'm going to lightly salt these and just let them drain for a minute. And then put them in the tray and then cover them with the sauce. So again, this is another one of those things that's just better the day after. So I'm not eating this today. I'll have it tomorrow. But I am going to salt it now. So here's my little golden fried eggplant, which I could just eat like potatoes right now. That'd be so good. Okay. And then I'm going to add that into my my pan and spread it out. Okay. And then add my topping on top of there. So that'll all soak in, and then we'll blend it together, okay? So like I said, I have seen this now with the fresh tomato pieces instead of I'm going to spread this out, instead of the tomato paste, and I've also seen it with tomato sauce. So this is my Planeta Caponata, which then I'll take that afterwards and stir it and mix it after about an hour or so. And then we have our Tuscan Peperonata. Thanks for hanging out, you guys. Now we'll see you online, and I think I might do that pork tenderloin. No, I don't know. I have to think about what we're going to do next, okay? Ciao. Thank you very much.